What's going on, gamers? We got a custom video to do here, basically just talking about something that I think we should just have a memory lane discussion about: console price changes, right? Not just console price hikes, because that wasn't the thing back then. And I think we all know that. It's console price changes then versus now, right? And man, when you start looking at this graph, you're like, wait, hold on, what am I looking at? For the people that weren't here, man, what am I looking at over here? The GameCube launched at $200. What was the problem then, though? Why it didn't sell like it should have? Nintendo made it ridiculous for third-party developers, and the disc was very small, but it still had memorable IPs. But that's not the point here. The point here is that it launched at $200 in 2001, and then it ended up being $99 on sale. Crazy stuff here, right? Nintendo was always the cheapest. They were always the most pro-consumer back then. And they had the best exclusives as well. Seeing where consoles are at today, definitely PlayStation and Xbox, it's absolutely ridiculous. Did we see the PS3 in 2006? Remember that cell processor that Sony chose? It was a mistake against the 360 early on. $499 to $599. Yeah, stuff you see today. That's why we were thinking that the PS6 could be in PS3 trouble, right? A possibility, depending on how Sony handles things. So, I mean, it ended up going from the $599 and $600 model, because they made the Slim, down to $250. I know you guys remember that, right? Man, I drink some water over here. But that's the thing, though. It's like, you got to be kidding me. And guys, there's something that I really want to talk about when it comes to this, too. It's something that's very important. Back then, you really needed to make money off of software and accessories. So subsidizing back then would be tougher, right? Whereas like today, you got certain price ranges like that, but yet they're making billions off of idle microtransactions, third-party microtransactions, PlayStation Plus, stuff like that. Whereas like back then, PS3 had free online. We know they did. And games were not $70. And there was no season passes going crazy like that. That started coming a little bit later. And then like the battle passes, when you look at the stuff with the free-to-play games too, of how much more they're able to make by easily just subsidizing, it's absolutely insane. So yeah, I mean, think about that. Look at the 360. The 360 was $300, and then it was a $400 model. And it dropped all the way down to $150 in the end. It was like way later on. But even then, Microsoft probably got an extra 15% sales off of Red Ring of Death. I know you guys remember that. God, that stuff was so annoying. Or like if your hard drive got stuck, you try to hit it, it just would not open up. You had to find a way to get it open. Batteries were also ridiculous. That's one thing I've always liked about the PlayStation controller. Though I think the PS3 controller was probably the most, I don't know, uncomfortable compared to the other ones. But you never had to worry about batteries. It was just better. But the Xbox controllers were very nice back then for its time. And then the Wii, once again, here comes Nintendo. $249. There was nothing other than that. It sold over 101 million too, if you think about it. So 102, 103 million actually. And then they dropped it down to 99, just like the GameCube. It was only $50 more expensive than the GameCube in 2006. And they did wonders with that Wii Sports and all the other stuff. They had great games as well too, and great exclusives. This gives you the idea of that market then, right? Let's fast forward to today. We got the PS5, the Xbox Series, and the Switch 2. Well, Nintendo was still cheap with the Switch, $299. See, they've always been very, very affordable. That's one thing I've always loved about Nintendo. They were really about making their devices affordable. Even with the Switch 2, okay, we're bumped up a bit more, but still nothing compared to the other consoles at the moment. And if this goes up to 500, yeah, that's going to be insane for Nintendo, because that's not usually the ballpark they usually get up into. But we see a drastic shift. So the Switch had to go from $299 start to the Switch 2 at $449. Something's going on here, right? Everything has changed. We know that's not an accident. Even though they're charging more, but there's also something else to it. It's pretty obvious. And then the Series, Xbox Series X, started out at $299. It was a cheap entry. I remember one time it was down to $249. It was selling more than the X because they were easily manufacturing a lot more. That ended up going up $100 more. Now that's a $400 console. And the Series X went up $150. Compared to looking at the 360, and then at the Xbox One, they had that at $399, remember? Or was it, no, that was $4.99. Yeah, Microsoft made that mistake with the Kinect, and they had to fix that. So they actually were kind of already the most anti-consumer after a while, and then doing that stupid TV stuff. They just made the most mistakes. Sony was usually always giving people good deals. Just like when you had the PS5 disc drive at $4.99, but you had the digital at $3.99, being $100 more expensive than the Series S, but having the same specifications as the PS5. It was amazing. Everybody knew that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's an easy victory. Microsoft's going to have something very strong, like exclusive-wise, to be able to compete. But here we go, going from $500 to $649 officially starting yesterday. As Microsoft Ben did that, where they shouldn't have. Because like if you're losing that bad, you should have kept the prices and subsidized. You're a $1 trillion company, so it doesn't matter. PS5 Pro going from where he made a mistake, it was actually $700 up to $900, $150 increase again. And then like when you just think about where things are at back then compared to now, it's like, man, what the hell happened to video gaming when it comes to being entry level? Because that's what consoles were supposed to be. PCs were more expensive always, right? Even though back then PCs were obviously cheaper too, but even then it was more about getting in at this price point, really about like this and this and this, and being able to play as many good games as possible. They were $39.99, $29.99, but usually over time, and $49.99 when they started to get to that point. But now we have to deal with this ridiculous market plus $70 games, and some may be going to $80, plus DLC, microtransactions. It's just like, whoa, the greed is insane. Not necessarily in the gaming industry in general, but just across this whole industry for everything. Food is the worst, though. But we all know NVIDIA beats all of this, because if you look at the way things were back then with NVIDIA, older days, we know, yeah, you should know about that. They have jacked the price up absolutely at an astronomical level. It's like phones used to be a lot cheaper. Look at the prices of them now, $1,000 and stuff to get one. Whereas like back then it was way more affordable. Everything is just significantly worse now. So let's go down to some of these comments, and let's look at them. He corrects him by saying PS5 Pro launched 2024 at $700, price increased at $749 last year. And that's what I was just saying. Yeah, for sure. He says, we didn't know how good we had it. Yeah, from a hardware perspective, it's like, shoot, software too, because devs actually optimized pretty good back then. You had to launch your game and that was it, so you better make sure it was finished. There's no patching till like later on, when it became more closer to like PC hybrid boxes. Ibrahim says, this is making the Switch 2 the best deal out of the new ones. Easily. Like I said, Nintendo's the most affordable, and they still have exclusives only there, and you can take it on the go. Right now, they have a pretty good standpoint, unless they jack the price up, which I don't think they should. But I think if they do, they're not going to do anything more than 25 or 50 bucks. But they shouldn't do that. They should subsidize as much as they can right now. They have to do anything, maybe it's going to have to be the Switch Online. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that sucks, but hey, better than doing your hardware, you have to have your base. You're still early, unlike Sony, who is in their 6th year. Same thing for Xbox, but did that before they were in their 6th year at low sales. Where it's like, oh, the Switch 2 could pass you up this year. So they should have subsidized it. They should have done deals in the holiday and has brought as many people in as possible, and then did a sell again when GTA came out and keep it rolling. That's what I thought Sony should have did with PSSR 2 implementation 2 with the Pro, and kept it there and seeing how much you can just go with that, because you're going to make the money anyways. You already made more than any other platform in history. So Reggie says, how come we don't have the Wii U pricing on this picture? Hey, we ain't got the Vita either. There's no Xbox One there either, but even though that's doing better than the series, he just wanted to set an example. I think there's only so much you could do with a picture. Maybe that's just what he wanted to show, but we know about those other prices too. Same thing for the handhelds. The Nintendo handhelds were super cheap. So this guy said, are you saying my launch PS5 Pro is worth more money now? It's very sad that the PS5 is now going to be as expensive as the Xbox Series X. Once again, pretty much. Switch went up because of tariffs. They didn't have to do that. That's a freaking old console. They could have put that down. But we kind of get the idea here. This sucks. It could be better. But I think that when I see Sony, maybe, I don't know about Microsoft, I think this is temporary. I don't see this being permanent. I think eventually they're going to drop the price down and eventually subsidize, and this market is going to come down within the next year or so easily. And we're going to see some changes. And then by the time the PS6 comes out, everything's going to be a little bit different. I don't see it being more than $700. If so, that's going to be terribly disappointing, because you need to move as many of those as you can, because you're trying to play the exclusive only game now. and push your own upscaler and all of that. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. This just gives you the idea of how things were back then, y'all. I mean, if you take a look at the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, you'll be surprised in those days too. A little bit different in the 90s. Later, y'all. Peace out.